Yes, thank you very much. I just want to make a few comments about the statement of intent, because I, as you know, led the negotiating team of the Democratic Alliance in those negotiations. And the reason that we had to move so quickly was not because there was a parliamentary deadline for the convening of Parliament as some arbitrary date. It is because the Constitution of South Africa says that Parliament must be convened and a president must be elected 2 weeks after the election. So that was an unmovable deadline. And the bad faith of the ANC began in those negotiations. And in fact, they changed the entire draft the night before the parliamentary sitting. And we had to decide what were our non-negotiables. We did a lot of compromising, as you always have to when you're putting together a coalition. But the one thing that we were absolutely determined was unmovable was the mechanism of decision-making in the new Government of National Unity, which is largely a coalition government. And we had agreed that that method of decision-making would be by sufficient consensus. And the president, the night before, in his own office, tried to whittle down the definition of sufficient consensus, and we stood firm and were prepared not to vote for him if that clause was whittled down. Well, frankly, in the interim, the ANC has ignored every single clause of the statement of intent. We insisted that it was signed by Fikile and Balula before we agreed to vote for the president on the 14th of June last year. But frankly, that signature isn't worth the paper it's written on. Clause 18 says that all decisions in the Government of National Unity will be taken by consensus. And if you can't get consensus, it will be by sufficient consensus. And then under Clause 19, there is a clear definition of what sufficient consensus entails. There's supposed to be a mechanism to apply sufficient consensus. It has never been implemented. Instead, the ANC, in bad faith, tried to put together a clearinghouse mechanism which turned out to be nothing other than an attempt to get around the sufficient consensus clause. And it was a complete farce. All of the legislation to which I think Nkosinathi referred to was actually passed in the 6th Parliament before we got into the Government of National Unity. So that limited our leverage. But on other things, we have real leverage, and we have the most leverage in Parliament, which is the leverage the voters gave us. And we will use that leverage, as we have done on the VAT increase, and as we will do on the votes of corrupt ministers. And obviously on the complete and utter waste of money, as John has said, the 700 million rand, which is actually a cover for the ANC's 2026 election campaign. And we will have no part of it.
Thank you very much, Helen. The last 3 questions, I'm going to start here with you. Just get the mic.
Thank you, Billy. Lindsay Denting, Eyewitness News. If I can just rewind a bit to Andrew Whitfield's sacking. Is the DA saying that all transgressions are not equal if you feel that this move was too drastic? And correct me if I'm wrong, was there not perhaps a cabinet directive stating that members of the executive should not be traveling to the US when the tensions were at its height? And Andrew didn't seem to have trouble getting the president to approve other international trips that he went on. So was this not perhaps a sign that the president didn't want him to travel? And who took that decision to send him on that particular trip? Thank you.
Thank you very much. There with Jason.
Thank you, Billy. Jason from News 24. Just one question. How do you foresee working in the GNU with the very people that you call delinquents and corrupt? And then I think the question on the replacement of Andrew Whitfield hasn't been answered yet. Do you foresee that position being replaced with another DA member, given that there were 6 deputy minister positions and 6 minister positions? Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. The last question there, right next to Jason.
Yes, Joseph Musia from JKT Media. My question to the DA is, the issue of not going to boycotting the national dialogue. I mean, in the grander scheme of things, it's not a constitutional mechanism or anything like that. It's just I don't see it being a significant, having a significant impact on the way on what is happening in the country at the moment. My big question is, when I came here, I was expecting that the DA, for me that was the big news, that the DA was going to be withdrawing from. But if you are not continuing, and the ANC sees this as just another DA complaint that is not going to lead to anything, is this action significant enough? I mean, for me, like everybody else, it came as a surprise that the president decided to take this particular action against Mr. Whitfield. And you are still prepared to sit in the same cabinet with these people. If Mr. Whitfield had not been sacked, you wouldn't have been taking any of this, even with the complaints that you are talking about against all these other ministers that have been accused of corruption. The point is, why is it that the DA is not taking a stronger action in the interest of the whole country, not just of itself? Because it looks like you want to still stay in the government of national unity because it benefits the DA to be there.
Thank you very much. That was the last question. I'm going to hand over to John. We want to watch the rugby as well.
What time is it? Thank you very much, Lindsay. And I think that where's Lindsay gone?
She's voicing.
She's got a deadline. So
Oh, shall I answer her last then? So hopefully she can come back in. Jason, yes, we will be submitting a replacement name, and that will obviously be a matter for our federal executive to take through the process. It is a DA position, and once again, the fact that we got 6 ministers and 6 deputy ministers is also another example about how we put South Africa first. We proportionally are entitled to a lot more than that. And yet, it is another matter we had to swallow at that particular time in order to make sure that we got a GNU that worked so we could get South Africa moving forward. And so I fundamentally want to prove the point and repeat what I've said, that at every step of the way, we've taken action to ensure that the coalition of chaos and coalition of corruption, or the doomsday coalition, does not happen in South Africa. And that leaves me to Joseph's question. And I'm sorry, Joseph, I hope you haven't put your front page together already, that you're disappointed that we're not leaving the GNU. But one of the reasons we went into the GNU was to play a part in rescuing South Africa and to ensuring that we prevented a doomsday coalition.